I'm Brad Bernheide, Associate Professor at the Kansas State University College of Education, and I'm also a co-director of the Game Lab there, which is an organization that we've set up to study games, to play games, and to look at how games can be used in education and actually other fields. We're starting to get into interdisciplinary studies and really looking at the power of games and what they can do. This has caused us to reach out to the Historical Miniature Gaming Society and their Next Gen gaming program, which is designed to create the next generation of wargamers. This video is about learning how to paint, specifically painting miniatures. And so I want you to first off, I'm guessing here that if you're watching this video, you've probably never painted a miniature before in your life. And it can seem a little daunting, especially when you get one of these miniatures, for instance, a 15 millimeter French soldier, and it's sitting there in front of you and you're going, how in the world am I supposed to paint this? I can't even see it. Or you're there going, that's great. There's no way I'm going to be able to get the surfaces covered the way that I want to. Well, first off, let me tell you this. Number one, relax. It's supposed to be a hobby. It's supposed to be fun. So if it's causing you anxiety, it's not going to be fun. Look at this as a way just to get some history out and to make things interesting for you. And do a little research with it. Now, the techniques I'm going to show you here in this video, they're not going to win any awards. You're probably not going to enter a Golden Demon competition with science fiction figures if you're going to apply these to that. My goal is to show you how to make some tabletop quality miniatures that will look good on a battlefield, a tabletop battlefield for that matter, and to create some historical excitement amongst your friends if you're playing with them, or amongst your students if you're playing with them. So let's sit back, let's relax, take a deep breath, and again, I'm going to show you how to have some fun with this and to make things interesting for you. So the first thing we need to do is figure out what in the world do we need to get in order to paint these things. Okay, so this topic is, what do I need? And before you start making a list of things that you need to do to run out to your local craft store and get started making your miniatures or painting your miniatures, you got to answer a couple of questions first. Number one, what time period do I want to play? Or what genre do I want to play? Do you want to have science fiction type spaceships and robots? For instance, here's an mech that I 3D printed, and it's waiting some painting. Or do you want to play a historical game, which probably is why you're here anyway, especially with the nature of this project. The second thing that you need to ask yourself is, what scale do I want to play? Do I want to play a small skirmish type scale where soldiers, each miniature represents one soldier? You might wind up getting a 28 millimeter miniature. Here's one that I've 3D printed of a French soldier. You might look for a more bigger scope of a game where you want to have soldiers be represented by smaller miniatures where you can pack more on a table. These are 6 millimeter Celtic warriors that I use when I play a Roman game. Or what I kind of think is the good center point, so to speak. You can make a big game with these, you can make a small game with them. But these are our 15 millimeter soldiers, and these are the ones I'm actually going to show you how to paint in this. This is a French soldier, and I'm working on a Napoleonic project right now. So a 15 millimeter French soldier, kind of a good way to go. They produce a good set of miniatures on the tabletop. As an example, here are a couple of British redcoats from the American Revolutionary period. Or, show you another period I play. Here's the American Civil War, a couple of Union cavalry soldiers that are dismounted and kneeling, getting ready to put some skirmishing fire down. Regardless of what you play, number one, start small. Okay? You're going to have to look up some rules. You're going to have to look up what battles you want to start with. And again, start small. Don't try and think, oh, I'm going to do Gettysburg or Waterloo or any other massive battle right off the start. You'll probably want to start with a small skirmish battle with the soldiers that you have, simply because it takes a while to learn a rule set and it takes a while to get things going. Also, a little bit of advice here. For instance, if you're starting with the Napoleonic era, make a French army first. Because last I knew, his French side was in pretty much every battle of the Napoleonic era. So it'd be a good way to start an army that you could always have something to play with. You don't need to worry too much about rules yet. You might want to look into it just to give you an idea of how to base these things. But that's kind of one of the good things is you can start a little bit slower and worry about basing later. A good resource, by the way, for you to look at is Little Wars TV, because they, after every game they play, have a rules review. And they use a pretty good system there. You can to evaluate the rule systems. You can also find some other good resources on the internet to come up with a rule set, and that'll get you going. For instance, this is for me, but for Civil War I play Fire and Fury, and it gives you good games at the regimental and brigade level, being the main forces that you move on a battlefield. Okay? Plus, I mean, look at the art on this. This is amazing as far as that goes. So, number one, figure out what you want to do. Come up with an idea. Come up with a game plan. And then start looking for miniatures. There are tons of miniature suppliers on the internet. Also, we're not even mentioning eBay or other secondary markets that you might be able to find things at a little bit lower price. But try and find good, solid miniatures. If you're going to 3D print your own miniatures, Thingiverse.com has some STLs that you can use. Please realize that it may be a little not as cost effective to print out a bunch of these, especially if you're doing a large scale. Okay? They come in all sorts of sizes: 2mm, 6mm, 10, 15, 18, 13, 25, 28. The big thing is, when you start looking at this, you're going to want to keep things small to start with. Make sure this is what you want to do, and make sure that you're ready to go with it. Another website that I highly recommend that you look at, especially if you're a teacher and just want to dip your toes in the water of miniature wargaming, it's juniorgeneral.org. Matt Fritz has done a great job assembling this site. When I grow up, I want to be Matt, because he wargames with his gifted students in upstate New York all the time. And he goes through world history and American history. His website actually has some paper soldiers that you can use and print off. As a matter of fact, I should have had these setting up a little bit better. Here's an example of some of them that I've used with my kids before. And we just cut them out and fold them up. We cut them out on cardstock. Or sometimes we even just use them as tokens on the map. But it gives you an idea of something that you can do and try with, just to get your feet wet with it. After you've got your miniatures, after you've figured out what time period you want to start with, you want to do a little research again before we go to the craft store and figure out how you want to paint them. A simple Google search might be able to help you out. For instance, I did a Google search. Here's the six armies, main armies of the Napoleonic era, and this is going to be my background as far as how I paint these guys. Another little tip that you can use, just do a Google search for miniatures, and you will find all sorts of uniform guides. You'll find all sorts of ways to start putting this together. Now, finally, Bernheide, after about 7.5 minutes, let's talk about what you need to get going, okay? And I'm going to show you a little way to do this. So, number one, as far as paints go, don't spend money on massive, high-quality paints that you don't know how to use right off the bat. For instance, I go to Walmart, and I still buy Apple Barrel craft paints for about 50 cents a container. Okay? Brushes, yeah, I get mine at Walmart too. I get some simple ones, take good care of them, push their points back in at the end. And as you advance in your hobby, you might start using some higher quality brushes, some better control brushes. But just to start out with, keep it simple, keep your costs down, and make some simple things. One other thing that you might want to do to start out with, just to make life a little easier for you, and this is what I do with all my 15 millimeters, and you've already seen this, I Elmer's glue them to a nail. This gives me something good to hang on to. I can hold them upside down to make sure I get all the little recesses and creases. And plus, it gives you a little bit of an assembly line to be able to do this. For instance, I just got done painting faces on some of these French soldiers, or painting the skin, and I kind of did it sloppy, but I was able to do it quick. Boom, boom, boom. Next one down, next one up. So I like keeping them in about groups of 8 to 10. That way I can get some repetition going, get some patterns going, keep that assembly line going. And between 8 or 10 of them, by the time you get done with the last one, the first one should be dried. You can either add your second coat or go on to the next color. So, my advice, do your research. Get what minis you want. Number 2, get cheap basic supplies. Again, 50 cents a tube. I get a packet of brushes for a couple bucks. I'm off and rolling. And number 3, make sure you have a good area set up where you can do this. So I showed you the nails that I use. I got an old piece of styrofoam here. I've got all my brushes set up, and I've got all my miniatures set up. I got a wide spot here on my table where I can manipulate things and take good care of them. I'm off and painting, and I don't have to reset every single time. Just some ideas to get going. Our next part, let's look at how we put paint on the miniature.